Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and it's finally time. I know you guys have been waiting a while for it, and so have I. It is time to go ahead and do the Varangian Guard's Executions Graded video, and some of you might be wondering, Raven, what is Executions Graded? This is the series where I take a look at all of For Honor's characters and look at their unique executions, give them all a grade, and then average out those grades so that we can get a firm idea just how good their executions really are. We've gone through every single hero in the For Honor roster thus far, and eventually I do plan to do the universal executions too, but with the brand new hero out, Varangian Guard, it's time to take a look at her executions. Now, there are a couple things to keep in mind as we go into this. The first being that, just like Ocelotl and Aphira right now, as of the making of this video, she only has 4 executions, which means that the average grade that comes out will be a little skewed and probably not as accurate, and it'll also look higher or lower as a result of only being 4 because there's much less to grade. As a teacher, that's something you have to look out for. So, those of you who are familiar with the series probably know how everything works so far, but if you just want a refresher or you're brand new to the series, I want to welcome you to this series. Take a look in the upper right-hand corner of the screen right now. You're going to see a link to a video called That's an Execution, which it basically explains my rubric for how I do the grading. Yes, guys, as a teacher, I actually do make rubrics for this assignment, so there are actual criteria that I'm looking for. What are the criteria? Simple. There are 4 criteria that I'm looking for, and each one graded on a scale of 0 to 4. Lethality. How deadly is the execution? Realism. How realistic is the execution? Is it something that could be realistically done? It's not supernatural. Efficiency. Is this quick? Is this effective? Is it well done? And then finally, cool factor. How cool does it look? Does it fit the character's personality? Is it awesome to use? Those are the 4 criteria that I look for when grading executions. After giving each execution a grade, I then average out the grade so that we have a pretty rough idea of just how good this hero's executions are overall. I am very, very excited to take a look at Varangian Guard, and I know you guys are too. So, without any further ado, let's get right into the Varangian Guard. First up is Head Block. I love it. I love that execution. Okay, so let's start with lethality. For lethality, this is definitely a 4. She has plunged the axe clean into the face. This is hitting brain matter, and then you're using that grip to just yank them backwards and behind you. This person's dead. All of this leading up to it is just preamble. This person is dead. 100% this person is dead. 4 for lethality. For realism, this is also a 4. There's no reason you couldn't do this. Now, granted, it would be a little difficult to push the axe that deep into the face, but not too hard to believe. Imagine if you punch really hard with the axe blade deep into the nose and through the cartilage there. You'll probably get a good distance in there. And also, if you puncture through the skull, that would actually explain the grip that the axe has on the skull. So, I'll give this a 4 for realism. For efficiency, though, I do have to give it a 3. And there are a couple reasons why. The major reason, though, being the startup of the execution being a headbutt into the fist. Now, what's happening here is the warden throws a punch, and then the Varangian Guard blocks it with her helmet. So, I don't like that for a small reason. Now, while I don't doubt that the helmet could block that punch just fine, keep in mind what the helmet's designed to do. The helmet is not designed to be a weapon. It is designed to be a last-ditch defense against head injury, which means even though the helmet will protect your head, you don't want to purposefully try to test that helmet. If someone's swinging a club or a mace or an axe at your head, even if you're wearing a pretty decent helmet, odds are good you're still going to get out of the way. Why? Because even though the helmet is strong, you don't want it to have to be tested. You want to make sure that your head is definitely going to be well protected. Now, I'm not saying that the fist would mean anything here. The fist probably wouldn't do anything more than cause a ringing sound or a ding against the head. But there's another problem. See, if she wasn't carrying any other defensive equipment, I would be okay with this, but she has a bloody shield, guys. She has a shield. Why not just raise the shield to block that punch? She does it in another execution later, so there's really no excuse. You didn't need to use the head other than to just look cool. So because of that, I have to give it a 3 for efficiency, just because that part was unnecessary. You didn't need to do that. It looks cool, but that's the one hurting factor here. However, with that said, I give this a 4 for cool factor because it is cool. What I really like about this is the effectiveness that she uses the shield as a bashing weapon. She does 2 kidney shots, punch to the face, and then yanks back and behind her, and then is moving on prepared for the next enemy. I think that is so impressive. It is very fun to watch. One of my favorite executions, and that gives this execution a 15 out of 16, which is a 94%. Very good start for the Varangian Guard. I very much enjoy it. Actually, before we go any further, there is one thing that I need to point out right away. that is this. I know that someone in the comment section is going to complain that a warden's helmet would be able to block that axe pretty easily. I want to make it clear here, so that people don't make any confusion. I do not count nor consider the warden's armor in this, because even though the warden is being used here to demonstrate the executions, on the battlefield, you have no control over what enemy you may be fighting. You could be up against a warden who may have armor that would matter here, but you could also be up against a shaman, or a Shaolin, or a Nuxia, or any other character who doesn't have helmet protection or armor protection in the right ways. So because of that, I never consider the opponent's armor here. I just assume they are not wearing armor, okay? Alright, so please don't hit me up in the comments and complain about that. I get enough of that as it is. Okay, let's move on. Next up is back crack. Oh, I love it. Ooh, I love that execution. So solid, so gorgeous, so brutal. Okay, so for lethality here, all right, let's talk about this for a second. This is actually a little hard to talk about. At first, I wasn't going to give it a good score because I thought, okay, you broke his back, but that doesn't necessarily mean they died. It could just mean that you paralyzed them, which, hey, I mean, you don't want to be paralyzed, but at the same time, that's not lethal. However, then Lark and I talked about it, and we saw this part. Let's look at it from the other perspective. Look at that moment the axe catches the throat. It only takes 72 psi to crush the windpipe. I'm willing to bet that or more was applied to the throat when the warden ran headlong into the bottom of that axe. It is very possible that more than 72 psi was used on the throat, so that way, even if he did survive the back break, his throat is going to swell up, making it impossible to breathe. That would be a death by excruciating suffocation. And worse yet, if his spine is severed thanks to the back break, he is paralyzed. He won't even be able to crawl to find help. He won't even be able to scream for help. This is an excruciatingly brutal way to go. Now, does that mean that it's a 4 for lethality? I gave it a 3, just because I don't know how much pressure was applied to the throat. If it is 72 psi or more and the throat is crushed, then we have a kill. If it's not, then all we have is a paralysis, which is not deadly, although it's not a good state to be in. So I gave it a 3 just because I gotta be consistent. If it's not deadly, it's not deadly. I do believe this would most likely kill. At the very least, it would paralyze. But there is that chance that it didn't catch them in the right way, so I gave it a 3 for lethality. However, for realism, I give it a 4. There's nothing about this that you could not do. There's nothing about this that is unrealistic. You could totally catch someone like this. You could sweep them in this method. Actually, I do actually love the way this is swept. It's very stylish, but it's also very tactical. I love the way that this is handled. I love the uses of a shield, and axe is not just a chopping and protecting mechanic, but also a grabbing and then breaking mechanic. I think that's really neat. For efficiency, I'm going to give this a 4 as well. Like I said, the style here is all on point. They were talking about how in the Warrior's Den, the Varangian Guard may have the brute force of the Vikings, but they also clearly have some training involved as well. They have some technique, some finesse, and we're starting to see that here. This is very, very well done, so that is a 4 for efficiency. It's quick, it's effective, I like it. And for cool factor, do I even need to say it? 4. This is one of my favorites. It's not my most favorite out of hers, but it is one of my favorites among the Vikings. It just looks so solid, and it's so simple. I love the fact that she uses the point of the kite shield to do this. I'm almost surprised we don't see something like this from Black Prior, but still, I think this works really, really well. Love this execution, which gives this a 15 out of 16, which is yet another 94%. That's right, Varangian Guard is starting off very, very strong in this graded series. Next up is Axe and Hammer. Yes, I love it. All right, so let's talk lethality first. Here's the problem. She's planting the axe into the shoulder. Now, there are no vital organs in the shoulder to worry about, so if she just planted it there, I would probably say this was a 1 or a 2 in lethality, because all you're doing is severing the shoulder or possibly cutting off the arm, which, while bad, isn't necessarily deadly. But there's something else to consider. Running underneath the shoulder, deep under it, are a lot of arteries, and if she put the axe head deep enough into the shoulder to sever those arteries, this person may bleed out in a big way, and there's no way to really save that in time. So this could be lethal, but it depends on how deep the axe is going, and it's really hard to tell. I'm willing to bet it went low enough into the body to sever those arteries, but I just can't tell for sure. At the very least, that person's arm is useless now. That is a very terrible wound to go into the shoulder. So I will give this a 3 for lethality. A 3. I think that's as fair as I can be with it. I think it's still good. I think it's still impressive. It's a 3. Okay, all right. So realism, though. I do think this is realistic. This is a 4 for realism. Everything about this is realistic. Once again, the sweep is effective. I love the way it's done. I think it's done very well, which leads into efficiency. Efficiency is 4. Yeah, efficiency is 4 here. I think that this was done very quickly. Again, notice the shield blocking the punch. Why didn't you do that with the first one, guys? But that's the way the shield should be used. I like the way it's brought up to block the punch, sweep the leg, falls to one knee, and then you just pound it in. Now, at first, I thought that the pounding of the axe was a bad idea efficiency-wise because you're wasting time doing it. But after thinking about it, she's trying to be as efficient as possible. She's not leaving it to chance. She's not just putting the axe in and then pulling out. She is pushing it deeper so that way she knows she gets the kill she needs. So you got to give efficiency points there for actually taking the time to make sure she got the kill she wanted. So that would be a 4 for me. And then for cool factor, 4. This is my favorite execution that the Varangian Guard has. I think it is not only badass, but it shows off some real finesse, some real power, some real skill. I definitely see that coming out in the Varangian Guard here. This really fits for her kit. This is another 15 out of 16, which is, say it with me, 94%. Gosh, she's just batting 1,000 right now. I love it. This is such a good series of executions, and we still got one more to go. Last up is Absolute Will. Let's look at it from the other angle. She just walks off. Yeah, I'm done. Oh, I love it. Oh, it's so good. All right, so let's talk about this one. From a lethality perspective, this is a 4 for lethality. Each axe strike is crossing the chest, even if it doesn't get deep enough to hit a vital organ. The amount of bleed out from that is going to be insane. Plus, you're doing a cross strike. So what does that mean? Let's say that you got one good hack across your flesh, one good cut. Usually you could stitch that up pretty well. But if the hacks are done in a cross style, like you do one slash and then you do another slash completely perpendicular to it, like right through the middle, that center area is going to be a lot harder to stitch up. It will take a lot longer to heal, and you'll get a lot of bleed out from it. This person's going to die from bleed out most likely. But then to add on to that, she breaks the neck with a shield strike after her 2 strikes. This person's dead. This person's dead 3 different ways. It's gorgeous. I actually love the way she does it. Now, for realism, is this realistic? I would say yes. This is a 4 for realism. You could do this. But let's look at efficiency. This was the area I was iffy on, and I'll explain my point. So when looking at this efficiency-wise, I was a little annoyed by the sloppy way she seems to swing it. I thought, what is with these wide, slow swings? That seems unnecessary. But then I actually tried to do it, and I talked to Lark about it, and we thought of something that we didn't realize upon first viewing. Look at the way she's swinging. This is not a double swing. This is a single swing, but changed momentum. Notice how she does not swing, stop, and then turn direction. She swings once and then reverses and then strikes with the shield. It's all one fluid movement. She is not swinging, stopping, reversing, swinging again. She is doing it in one fluid motion, which I've got to admit surprised me. Also, look at the way her hand moves down and up the shaft. If you start at the beginning, she has her hand kind of in the middle of the shaft when she starts swinging, but then she slides it down to the bottom to get more reach, more range, and more power, just less control. So yes, while I admit there's a little less control in the axe swing, I have to admit that what she's doing is pretty impressive. She is still maintaining one single fluid motion by building up momentum and force into her strike, which I think is a good idea when dealing with an opponent and you want to cut them open with a one-handed swing. Now, do I think it could have been better two-handed? Absolutely. But still, for what it is, I think it worked very well. And then that finally leads into cool factor, 4. 4 for cool factor. It is absolutely phenomenal. So we've got 4s all across the board, folks. I think that this is an absolutely stunning execution. I think it looks and feels badass. It is very much what I would expect a Varangian Guard to pull off. This is a 16 out of 16, which is a 100%. That's right, guys. Varangian Guard gets a perfect execution in this one. Absolutely phenomenal. Very, very impressive. I'm just amazed by what the Varangian Guard brought to the table. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Varangian Guard's executions graded. So, after going through all of them, what did she get? Well, guys, after averaging up all the executions graded that we get an average total of 96%. Wow, that may be the highest average we've gotten so far, but to be fair, like I said before, she only has 4 executions, so there is that to keep in mind. As more executions come out with Hero Fest, I will of course be adjusting and changing as is necessary, but 96 is still pretty strong to start out with. I really like the Varangian Guard's executions to start off with. I think that they are solid, very entertaining, very cool, fitting in her character. All of them were pretty damn lethal, with the exception of 2 that are a little iffy, but even then, I would err on the side that they died. All of them were realistic. The majority were efficient. All were cool. Absolutely outstanding. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you think that they were just as awesome as I did? Do you think that the grade should have been higher, lower, or do you think I was just right? Let me know down in the comment section below, respectfully, of course. And hope you guys are going to pick up Varangian Guard if you haven't already. And as always, guys, I will see you in my next video. Take care.